Greetings everybody and welcome to our video on unit number 6. Okay, so for this week you were reading chapters 12 and 13 or 11 and 12. Let me double check. So yeah, 11 and 12. So chapter 11 focuses on selecting strategies of instruction and chapter 12 focuses on evaluating instruction. So I had a few thoughts on both of those. So So again, once we've written our curriculum and we've specified what we want students to know, understand, and be able to do, and once we've thought about how we're going to assess whether or not students can actually know and understand and can do the things we want them to, we need to select and implement instructional strategies to help students acquire those targeted learning goals and objectives, right? And so it's really, really important to not just blindly select an instructional strategy, but to really carefully ask what strategy is going to be best for helping my students to acquire, X learning goal or X learning objective. And usually, right, we're going to be wanting to really use more than one, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. So we all probably have our one or two instructional strategies that we feel most comfortable with. And one of the things about becoming a really excellent teacher is developing a broad array, right, of things in the instructional toolbox to pull out of. So I'm just going to mention a few categories here, not inclusive by any means of all the potential instructional strategies, but teachers and school leaders and principals need to become experts at as many of these as possible. Of course, some of it's going to depend on the age, some of it depends on the subject matter, etc., as to which one's going to be most appropriate. So let's take a look at a couple. So direct instruction is the one that's been around since the beginning of time, right, in terms of schools. It's very much kind of what I'm doing right here via this video at the moment is I'm explaining some information to you in a very direct fashion. You're listening, hopefully processing, and then ideally after this we would give you some way to process it further to show that you're acquiring some of this. So direct instruction is certainly one. There's a wide variety of different learning groups that could be used, right? So sometimes called cooperative learning, but so it could be that when students come to class, I'm in a math class, instead of me being up at the board, going through particular problems, I may break students up into groups, give them particular problems to work on. They try to come up with a solution as a group, and then they present to one another, right? There's a wide variety of ways that the groups can be used as a part of an instructional strategy. Project-based instructional strategies, which could be either individual or as a group, where the whole idea is that they're completing a project and that the act of completing the project would help them acquire the knowledge, skills, and understandings that they need, and the act of completing it would also be a demonstration of the evidence that they've actually been able to do it. So, and then often tied to that would be problem-based. They're not really one and the same. So problem-based may or may not involve an actual product or project that they're working on. Problem-based is that I present a problem, again, either individually or to a group, and the act of trying to solve that problem helps students acquire the learning targets and also serves as evidence that they've actually done it. The flipped classroom model is another instructional strategy that depends heavily on technology. So the traditional classroom involves teacher presenting some type of information to students, student going home and processing or doing homework, and then coming back to class the next day. The flipped classroom has students watching videos, kind of like this, for example, and at home, and then coming to class, and during class, students are actually engaged in doing the homework or doing the problems. And this has become a very popular method. And then finally, an experiential learning approach means that in order for students to acquire the learning targets, they need to be out in the real world in some way, or they have to be engaged in an authentic experience that simulates whatever we're asking them to be able to do. And it's through that experience that they acquire the learning targets rather than just kind of receiving things. So this is just a snapshot of some different potential strategies, right? And again, the key is to always be asking, which of these strategies is going to help me help my students acquire the intended learning targets, right? That's the ultimate goal. So that's a nice segue into our next slide, which is, how do we go about actually evaluating instruction? I think a lot of times instructional evaluation has been associated with evaluating a teacher. Is the teacher a good or a bad teacher? And I think that misses the boat. Really, the ultimate, if you think about it, what is the ultimate goal of instruction? Right? The ultimate purpose of instruction, it's an obvious one, right, is to help students acquire the knowledge, understanding, and skills specified in the curriculum. So if we're really going to accurately evaluate instruction, it's got to be taking a look at the extent to which students actually did acquire the knowledge, understanding, the skills specified. So value evaluation must be based on accurate assessment of student learning, and then we take a look at the gaps between actual student learning and what is specified as learning targets in the curriculum. And those become opportunities to improve instruction. So instruction is only effective to the extent to which, right, it's only effective to the extent to which students actually acquire the knowledge, understanding, and skills that are specified. And so it's not a matter of a good or a bad teacher. It's a matter of effective or ineffective instruction. And so as we're evaluating instruction, we want to identify these gaps, and those gaps become opportunities to improve instruction. And then so how do we go about trying to improve that instruction? We help teachers, right, develop instructional approaches that will help their students acquire whatever learning targets aren't being met. So professional development's got to focus on helping teachers close these gaps. So often with professional development, it's a one-size-fits-all, and we don't target the gaps in this way. So professional learning has to target the gaps that we find when we evaluate instruction. That's the only way that we can continue to support and really develop teachers. Thanks so much, everybody. If you have any questions on chapters 11 and 12, don't hesitate to contact your instructor.